Shut up.
Please.
Anyway, what I prepared for you this morning is just a bit of a recap of why we have done the revitalization project. The main focus, though, is to thank all those that have contributed so steadily, so regularly, so faithfully over the last 10 years to make paying off the debt a reality. So why revitalize our Christian education building? This is like the Friendly Giant used to say, I'm going to take you way back.
Way up.
Way back.
I've been here 50 years.
First of all, woefully inadequate kitchen. I don't know if Betsy's within earshot, but certainly pointed out the sins and what we needed to do. Inadequate Sunday school space for our kids, little office space, leaky and inefficient building, and one of the main implements or appliances we had in the kitchen was Victor mousetraps. I think some dubbed it Betsy's trap line. So objectives, why did we do this at all? Building that is safe, convenient, and designed for our needs. Basically, as a Christian congregation, a platform for putting our faith into action. Are people hearing properly at the back? Yes. Yeah, good. Secondly, to reduce our expenses. Costs were going up because a lot of the heat we were generating was just heading right out the window and wasn't being conserved. So Bill with his team was very influential in putting energy efficiency on the agenda. A sound environmental ethic, certainly more relevant today in 2019 than it probably was in 2010. So I think Emmanuel's kind of ahead of the curve by getting that on the agenda. And finally, really needed some new infrastructure, new kitchens, space for meeting rooms, etc., and modernizing our facilities, all in the interest of improving energy efficiency. Sorry, that's very sensitive. So, we started with the construction phase, obviously. Thanks to Bill for many of these slides. June 2008, we created a committee. In February 2009, the congregation accepted the recommendations, basically the design configuration that had been proposed, approved by the congregation in the fall in 2009, and in July 2010, permits were received and construction began. As many of you will know, we went into Exodus at that point. We actually left our building and headed for St. Aidan's and spent a good part of a year, a little more than a year actually, in St. Aidan's. And Regal Park. Another important aspect was presbytery approval. This is back in the olden days when we had a presbytery. Basically, the motion was to proceed with $2.177 million retrofit of the building in keeping with concerns for green construction, energy efficiency, and accessibility. So basically, mid-2010. Wanted to say thank you to the trustees that were on the job at the time. Richard Johnson, Carolyn Brown, Ed Borza, Malcolm Collins, Harold Godding, Shirley Montse-Bratton, and Joan Stevenson. These people were asked to put their names on the line to get presbytery approval, and they did so on behalf of our congregation. So the left and right are pictures of during and after. Anybody recognize the one on the left-hand side? Anybody been in that space?
Yes.
And on the right-hand side, what a beautiful space was created for us. On the left-hand side at the bottom, anybody recognize that?
That's the old fire room.
It could be the kitchen. And it is. The kitchen's on the right-hand side. So tremendous transformation of the place that occurred. So what did we do? Created another committee, the Revitalization Fundraising Committee. Its mandate from council was to develop a detailed plan for fundraising to support the project, and I've listed the members there and offer generous thanks to them. Ellen Broman, Nadina Escamilla-Lopez, Harold Headley, Cam Johnson, Richard Johnson, Shirley Montse-Bratton, Lynn Salveson, Russ Pastic, and Pierre Perron. And they met 14 times between March 2009 and May 2010. Portfolio was based on a variety of sources of funds. Available funds, really we got the whole idea started by the generous bequests that had been received. Were it not for the generous bequests, I don't think we would have gone ahead with the project, even though the need was acute. But certainly Mona Jones, Annie Gamble, and others got us started. We also dipped deeply into Emmanuel's Capital Fund. Personal donations have been the key part, either from PAR or monthly donations or other donations along the way. Many fundraising events, debt financing, of course, was needed, which cost us money, and there were outside sources as well. The target then in 2010, as we met, was $1.5 million to cover the total cost, as we understood. I hear a gentle murmur in the room. However, as the construction proceeded, several unexpected events occurred, and the total cost increased by $1 million. Among those unexpected events, asbestos that was discovered, a folded plate roof that had a weak spot in the middle, and worse yet, Mother Nature delivered an earthquake right in the middle of the project, which got everybody at City Hall upset and made us reinforce the building to a great extent beyond what we had anticipated. So eventually, a lot of those extra costs, as they occurred, had to be covered by debt, because we basically used up our resources to get us to this point. So these are the components, adds up to $1.461 million. Interesting to note, that number is about 3.8 times the church's annual budget in 2010. So we took on a staggering amount of debt. And we'll walk through each of those just briefly today. First of all, revitalization bonds, and I thank Pierre Perron for working with us to get those going. This was the largest single share of financial support, $611,000, and this is the hard sell that we used. Emmanuel's congregation has said yes. Revitalization bonds allow the church to reduce the impact of debt financing costs on our mission and ministry. And a revitalization bond is a win-win for the church and its mission, for its people who have been entrusted with its financial resources. The only thing missing is that diagram with Uncle Sam pointing out that said, "We need you." But the bond campaign was a tremendous success. When we got presbytery approval, we anticipated about $250,000 that might come in through bonds. $611,000 was contributed. This is what many of us had. This is a 5-year bond. There was also 10-year. And again, note the trustees have basically made the commitment to have that money paid back. The interest rate, 3.48%, we calculated that based on GICs at the time, decided that to save Lynn Solveson work, our treasurer, we'd just jack it up to 3.5. So 3 goals that we had to eliminate the long-term debt. First of all, minimize the amount of interest that's paid out, get it out of the church, off the church books in 10 years, and keep the congregation posted along the way. Set up a separate fund on the books, the Revitalization Fund, which meant that the entire project was financed completely separate from the congregation's general fund budget, which I think was exactly the right thing to do. We kept the church going in the meantime, and we covered the debt through a Revitalization Fund. Also very important was that people stepped up when asked to pledge. First round of pledging that we did, $743,000 was committed by members of this congregation. We repledged in the midway through the debt period, $576,000. So if you look at that in terms of the commitment that people were willing to make, it's literally staggering. And we made monthly payments along the way, both principal and interest. Thought you might be interested. This is the 2017 accounting out of the annual report from 2017. Just to give you an idea of how significant the amounts are. Donations themselves, $130,000. And then a whole series of fundraising events, all adding up to a significant debt reduction in that year. As of the end of 2017, we had it knocked down to $191,000. Significant achievement. And that amount at that time was 13%. So something like 87% of the debt had been reduced in that space of time. Fundraising events, wow, have we ever had a lot of them. These are just a few. One cornerstone of the entire project was Simplify Your Celebrations, which Ross created for us. Basically, the last page of the booklet, of the packet, make a donation, attribute it to Revitalization, and it's been a cornerstone of the fundraising activities we've done. And you can see many of the others that are listed there. Fashion show, slides and DVDs to digital that Ron has done, quilting, Joan Foster Jones, Christmas readings. 65 people contributed to the Christmas readings in 2017. 65 people. So it's been a real congregational effort. Shendyman's dinner, little plug, coming up on October 18th. Pancake supper, choir cabaret, and as I said this morning, even a country hoedown. So many thanks to all those who not only organized the events, but also pitched in and showed up, bought tickets, and enjoyed them, I hope. Along the way, we had a very fortuitous development. Following the amalgamation of Wesley United and Emmanuel, a portion of the proceeds were set aside from that sale to cover the debt. And $459,000, which I believe was about 30% of the total. So were it not for that contribution, we wouldn't be here this morning. We'd still be working through year over year over year. What we used that money for was to repay the Rideau Park loan. The last loan we got and the first loan we paid off, curiously enough. The Church Extension Fund mortgage, which was arranged through a presbytery committee, and the 5-year bond. So we want to give thanks to the Wesley members for their generous support for the revitalization project. Now we get to do some shredding. So what I pulled together are documents that are directly related to each of those elements. First up is the Rideau Park loan. We appreciate the term loan of $50,000 provided by the Foundation Fund of Rideau Park United Church in February 2012 to support the revitalization of Emmanuel's Christian Education Building. With our best regards and thanks for your support for our revitalization project. This one was signed by Blake originally as Chair of Council, and it was co-signed by my friend Gavin Curry, who's the Chair of Trustees of Rideau Park United Church. So accepting the honor to do some shredding this morning is Don Hamilton. Don and I spent many hours chatting about how on earth we were going to manage to pay for all this. Sir?
We sure did. And as a person who uses that kitchen every week, I am thankful.
Go shred, my friend.
Where
Go
is
shred.
it? There it is.
I hope you know how to use it.
Watch your fingers.
Now, with a promise to get her out of here by 11:35 at the latest, Erica Langner has volunteered to shred for us the Church Extension Fund mortgage. Second one we got rid of. It reads, we appreciate the financial support provided by the Church Extension Fund to the Revitalization Project. This project has given us an attractive, energy-efficient facility where many new and ongoing events and activities take place. And we are now in position to repay the balance of that mortgage. Erica, over to you.
Tomorrow.
Bring up practice calls. And third, out of that package, using the Wesley funds, was the 5-year bonds that were repaid. Pierre Perron was a real key figure in getting this going, creating the brochure, helping with the sale. Pierre, would you please?
As I quit, with thankfulness, we do the shred.
Leave it to Peter.
So just a few milestones along the way. 2015-2017, we paid off the Congregational Development Fund mortgage. I missed it, Terry, I'm sorry. And redeemed the 10-year bonds using Emmanuel's eternal funds. In other words, this is money that we had in reserve. We thought it would be advantageous to get rid of the interest-bearing mortgages and commitments we had. So we used our internal funds to pay off some of the debt that we'd taken on. The Congregational Development Fund mortgage, $500,000 for 10 years, and our second biggest lump. Payment of interest, $5,200 per month. An onerous burden indeed. We did a couple of things to reduce the debt. Negotiated a reduction in interest rate from 4.5% to 3%, and we made an early payment of $50,000 along the way. But we used the money from our internal funds to pay off the principal and interest via an internal loan. 10-year bonds were also paid off. They were 2010 to 2020 and redeemed in full by adding to that internal loan. So volunteering to shred this one for us, probably our biggest single lump out off our shoulders, is Hildy Reynolds. Is Hildy around?
Yes.
Hildy, shred for us.
What a challenge. Wonderful.
Uh, 10-year bonds. If you can read the fine print, it's exactly like the previous sheet, but it's the best I could do. Would someone like to volunteer to shred this one for us?
Come on, Mom.
Joan Foster Jones. Thank you, Joan.
Great.
That was a $500,000 job you did for us, Joan. The internal loan was paid off gradually as contributions trickled in. Significant saving of interest for the CDF alone, the Congregational Development Fund mortgage loan, switching from the 3% rate to the other rate that Lynn was able to give us, saved us roughly $18,000. So it's significant contribution. Looking after the internal loan from start to finish was Lynn Solvacip. So this is an informal document. It says 2015 paid off the Congregational Development Fund, 2017 used to redeem the 10-year bonds, and 2018 we were successful in paying off our own internal loan. Lynn, if you would, please. Generous internal loan, or a personal loan, excuse me, from a congregant. It was the last item to be paid off, and we did that in August of 2019. That marked going to zero. And the Hindu children will be shredding this one for us. I think 2 of them at least, Loli and Edie maybe. So this is our last piece, folks. This is a joint effort, I've been told. Fingers. So that's the chart that I've been putting in the week, or not the annual report, just to track it. But I think anybody would say, wow, when they saw that chart. And the people in the lower right-hand corner, many of whom are in this room, think so too. So what has this meant overall to our congregation? I would say, without a doubt, our building has been put to excellent use. And here are a few pictures just to illustrate that. You'll notice that food appears in some of them. I don't want to attribute the exercise class to anything but just getting real fit, but you can see some familiar faces there. And Hildy with a cup of coffee, or a pot of coffee, certainly are welcome. We didn't quite come up with the individual desserts that these ladies did, but we have cake for you in a little bit. And we even have our mayor showing up at I think it must have been a bazaar event. So let's remember all those that we need to thank. First of all, the contributors, the cornerstone of making this all work, whether by par or donations from time to time, those that pledged, many of whom are prior donors and also pledgers and made donations, and those from the former Wesley congregation prior to amalgamation. The lenders, the people that took the risk on Emmanuel, and 2 of them are with the United Church of Canada, but the latter 2 are all us, bondholders and loan providers. Finance Committee has been the center of all this at Emmanuel. Lynn has been most diligent in tracking this, keeping track of all the pennies, etc., and keeping us informed each month about how we are doing. Keith Jacob has received all the donations and looked after them carefully. Keith was also instrumental in the pledging campaign. Mary Turnbull, not here today, paid the checks to bondholders and interest, etc. Terry, in the first few years of the project, I don't know, 4 years or 5, Terry, wrote sections in the annual report solely dedicated to the revitalization accounting. So it certainly kept us on track for those early years when I think all of us were a little bit worried about whether this was going to work. Ross White and Tom have been chairman of the Finance Committee during this phase, and I've been the debt retirement coordinator. And on the lower right, fundraisers, event organizers, attendees, etc., and Simplify Your Celebrations, and I'd encourage you to keep that up. Simplify has been repurposed to general fund, and the fundraising events have been too. So, I'd like to call on Catherine just to say a word of prayer.
Thanks, Graham. I wasn't here when you guys started this project, but I can see that this meant a lot to you and that you've worked very, very hard to make it happen. So thank you, and I understand Graham has spent a lot of time. Let us pray. Creator and creating God, in a world that is always changing, always evolving, we give thanks for your presence in our lives. We give thanks for the faith that we share together in this community called Emmanuel United Church, for the many ministries that we have shared in the past, present, and future. Ministries such as outreach, global partners, learning, pastoral care, fellowship, worship, all that includes. God, as we celebrate our ministries together, we recognize that they require people and place to make them happen. Today, as we celebrate the elimination of our debt, we give thanks for the faith of many who invested their time and resources so that this community can be served in a functioning building. We give thanks for those who had a vision for this building and for those who have contributed throughout the years to eliminate the debt. For the many committees, the lenders, the contributors, we give thanks for the fundraisers, people who organized, pitched in, and showed up. God, as we continue our ministry here together, may we do so in a way that allows your loving presence to be known throughout creation. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Now, at long last, please, let's give ourselves a huge hand.
Just a second, Graham. I'm sorry, but I've been doing the math.
Keith, don't worry. I'll cover it. I'll cover it.
I just think we have one more outstanding debt. And that's a debt of gratitude to Graham Campbell for that.
As we thank Graham and the whole congregation for the great work we did, I have one other thing to do, and that is to shred the terms of reference for the debt retirement board.
Hallelujah. Anyway, folks, top up your coffee. Ross and team will be doing cake. The cakes, by the way, were the creation of Tom Kahneman. Tom said, please send me some pictures, so I did, and this is what happened. So kudos to Tom for making that work. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the morning. Pick up your pies if you have them. Thank you.